All right, guys, let's continue this talk about triangle congruence and the shortcuts that we can use to prove that they are congruent. Remember, normally congruence, we would need to make sure all of the corresponding sides are congruent, all of the corresponding angles. Triangles, we can basically get away with doing half of the work. Last time we talked about side, 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 and we talked about side, angle, side. There's actually a total of 5. So we'll take a look at 3 quick explanations of the 3 remaining ideas, and then we'll possibly look at an example or 2. All right, so first off, we have angle, side, angle. All right, in order to use this shortcut, I would need to know that I have 2 angles. Let's just say I know this angle is congruent to this corresponding one, and this angle is congruent to this corresponding one. Now notice the S is right in the middle. In order to use angle, side, angle, we need what's called the included side, or the side in between. All right. So the side in between these 2 angles would be here. If we have this much information, then we're guaranteed to have congruent triangles. All right. The next one, very close, is angle, angle side. So here, let's come up with 2 triangles here. Again, if I knew these 2 angles were the same, and I knew these 2 angles are the same, please understand the included side is right here. But we don't want the included side on this problem. So as long as we have either of the other 2 sides, as long as, let's just say this side is congruent to its corresponding one, we have 2 angles and a non-included side. This side, we want the not or non-included side. If we have this much information, we're guaranteed congruence. Now, the last one's a little bit tricky. All right, so understand you don't have to memorize all of these options. All right, we have side, side, side. We have side, angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side. I understand there's a couple that don't work. First off, this here does not work. Just thank goodness it happens to spell not necessarily a bad word. We'll just call that an interesting animal. If it spells out a donkey, it actually doesn't work, and neither does angle, angle, angle. All right. During class, we may actually prove and show why these 2 don't work. But I'm trying to keep this video short so that kids continue to come watch the last example. It's called the HL theorem. This is different. The H stands for hypotenuse. The L stands for leg. So if we're talking about a hypotenuse, we got to be talking about a right triangle. So if we knew we had right triangles, if we knew that the hypotenuses were congruent, here's the hypotenuse of each one, and we knew one of the legs. It doesn't matter which leg. Let's say we knew that this leg, the other 2 sides are referred to as legs. This is the only example, the only version of angle, side, side that really works. So since we can't have any other scenario except for it only works for the right triangle, we come up with this alternative theorem, the hypotenuse leg theorem. And these are the 5 ways that we can create a shortcut to prove congruence with triangles. Otherwise, we got to go through the whole gamut and find 3 pairs of congruent sides and 3 pairs of congruent angles, which is hard to do. And just realize, if we can't prove any of these, all right, so on your test, you'll be provided with the options. They'll say, can you use side, 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 angle, 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 side, H, L, or our last option is that it is possible that we can't prove the triangles are congruent. It might be not possible. So let's look at a quick example. All right, let's look at an example like this that we've kind of seen before. All right, let's say that I know these 2 sides were congruent, and I knew these 2 sides were congruent. Question is, which one of our postulate and theorems may we use to prove congruence? And then part of our points will be whether we complete the congruence statement correctly. So if you remember our procedures from last time, step 1 was what's been marked congruent so far? Well, I have 1 pair of congruent sides, so that's an S. I have a second pair of congruent sides, but that's all I have. I don't have one of my shortcuts. I need more information. All right. The shortcuts I can go after: side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, the HL theorem, or I'm going to choose not possible. Okay, the only question is, there's something else that should be marked congruent. I tried to give you a hint to only look at 2 types of ideas. First off are the triangles sharing a side. They share a point, but they don't share a side, so there are no reflexive sides. There are vertical angles. So I do have an angle to add into the mix. I got 3 ideas. So if I were going to give you a big time recommendation, it's best to try and narrow our choices down. I don't have right triangles. I should be immediately eliminating the HL theorem. Right triangles doesn't guarantee me HL, but if I don't have right triangles, I'm guaranteed not to be using that. I have 1 angle and 2 sides, which eliminates my options that need 2 angles and 1 side. I do have 2 sides and angles, so this is a maybe, and I don't have all 3 sides. So I have an example of side, angle, side, or I'm going to be choosing not possible. The only time I'm going to choose side, angle, side is if that angle is in between the sides. Best way to look at that is to cover up one of the triangles. I look at my 2 sides. The angle in between is the one that's right here. That's not the one that's been marked. So I do not have side, angle, side. This is an example of my donkey problem, and we cannot use that. So instead of a postulate theorem, we're going to say this is not possible. Since we said not possible, we certainly shouldn't be naming 2 triangles that are congruent. So we would either, best ideas, leave that blank. Don't mark anything in there. Mark something out. All right? So again, the procedure I gave you last time does work every time, but narrow your choices down and then make a selection based on the information that you have. If you can do that, you can possibly prove your triangles are congruent. Good luck.